Milan, today in northern Italy, is renowned for its great architecture and remnants of the Roman Empire. However, 1700 years ago, the empire had tremendous power. It was rarely challenged. However, back then, the Bishop of Milan had come from nobility. He was a charismatic leader of immense influence. He was also a gifted writer and powerful speaker who converted Augustine to the Christian faith. His writings have influenced generations of theologians and church leaders ever since. However, today we take a look at his record, his influence, and above all, perhaps, his immense courage as he confronted the awesome power of the Roman Empire. Ambrose was born in the year 340 in Trier, in what is now Germany, actually. His father served as prefect in Gaul, and so the young Ambrose was brought up with a very high-class Roman background. After his father died, he was sent to Rome, where he received a brilliant education in both law and literature. He was a highly intelligent young man, and during his 20s he moved rapidly up through the ranks of the Roman civil service. By his early 30s he had become governor of Emilia Liguria, with headquarters in Milan. However, the first major turning point in his life came in 374, when the Bishop of Milan died. The city of Milan at that time was religiously divided between Orthodox Christians and Arians who did not accept the divinity of Christ. The death of a bishop increased tensions between these factions, and Ambrose, as governor, attended a meeting to select a new bishop in order to maintain law and order. Ambrose was already seen as a competent governor, and after he spoke at the meeting, the crowd erupted and demanded that he become their bishop. He tried to resist, but the risk of civil unrest was very real, so the emperor quickly approved the people's decision, and so this civil governor became a bishop virtually overnight. He wasn't even baptized at the time, and he was only 34 years of age. So this was one of the most extraordinary elections in church history. About a decade or so later, in the mid-380s, Ambrose was under strong political pressure to allow one church in Milan to become Arian. Arianism meant that such a church would reject the divinity of Christ. The mother of the Empress Justina was involved. She used her influence to make this demand, but Ambrose refused her request. A dangerous standoff occurred. Imperial troops surrounded the church. A very serious situation of civil unrest was about to erupt. Ambrose, however, barricaded himself in with hundreds of other people into the church. They became involved in prayers and singing, so that when the soldiers actually entered the church 4 days later, they refused to attack these citizens. Ambrose's courage in the face of imperial power had paid off. He had won his first major battle in state-church relations, but it was not to be his last. After another 4 years, in the year 390 actually, a major and tragic incident occurred. Here, a popular charioteer was accused of a crime, and he was actually imprisoned. People were outraged with this situation, though they didn't believe justice was done, and a riot erupted in which a number of imperial officers of the Roman army were killed. The emperor was actually outraged with this situation and the defiance of the people and defiance of the Roman authority. And in a fit of rage, he ordered his soldiers into a stadium to attack thousands of innocent men, women, and children. 7,000 people were killed. When word of this reached Milan, Ambrose wrote a letter, quite an angry letter actually, to the emperor, condemning his actions and demanding that he do public penance before he could again receive Holy Communion. Initially, the emperor totally rejected the idea that he'd do any public penance, but He eventually appeared at the cathedral because of the persuasive powers of Ambrose. He appeared actually in penitent's dress, and Ambrose was actually very angry at the actions of the emperor, and he actually restored him to Holy Communion only after a period of sincere repentance. Of course, thousands of other people were extremely angry with the action of the emperor in regard to this matter as well. So it was the first time a Roman Empire actually submitted to a bishop. This is what's so historic about it. It was an important turning point in history. It showed that no leader is above God's law, and it shaped the church-state relations in Europe for centuries to come. So Ambrose actually coined a phrase which is, the emperor is in the church, but he's not above the church. And this became a symbol of church-state relations for centuries to come. Ambrose, of course, came from a very high-class aristocratic background, so he understood politics at a very high level in the Roman Empire. He also, as a young man, had a great education. He was trained in law, in philosophy, and in rhetoric in Rome in his teenage years and in his early 20s. And so by the mid-80s, 380s, Augustine had come to Milan, and he was deeply influenced by Ambrose, by his sermons and by his convictions, and also by his courage. And in the year 387, just a couple of years after his battle with the Arians, Ambrose baptized Augustine into the church. And this is probably the most important single event of his life, in that Augustine went on to become the most influential church father in history. Augustine, of course, was regarded as the greatest theologian of all time, the greatest church father as well. And he was actually quoted in several church councils in Trent and various different councils, even right up to Vatican II. He's also actually quoted in several major theological textbooks and the Modern Catechism, which was actually produced by Joseph Ratzinger in 1992. Augustine is quoted there more than any other theologian, and this is why he's regarded as the most influential theologian of the Catholic Church. So goodbye for now, and thank you very much. Please subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.